भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अरुणाचल शिवाय अरुणाचल शिवाय अरुणाचल शिवाय. Namaste, my dear friends. I am giving this video on Atama Sakshatkara, that is direct awareness of the self. Maharshi Ramana told about Atama Sakshatkara that this is the direct awareness of the self graciously expounded to Guha by Ishvara himself, that is Lord Shiva, the foremost and the first Lord, seated as the self in my heart. This was told by Ramana Maharshi. Our self is the same Lord, Brahma, Shiva, Ishwar, whatever you call, that Lord is sitting in our spiritual heart in the form of Atma. Our Atma and Brahma, or Lord Shiva, is same. We have to believe this truth. Now, Lord Shiva has taught Guha. Lord Shiva says, Guha, I shall tell you about a different way to reach that reality which pervades partless in all, too subtle though to be grasped by the mind. Now, our Atma is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Atma of each and every human being is the same. Only difference comes due to our subtle impressions, mind, ego, and chit. Otherwise, Atma is the same in everybody's spiritual heart. There is no difference. The thoughts of different people, behavior, and their karmas are different due to the actions of mind, ego, chit, because our Atma remains just as a witness. Further, Lord Shiva says to Guha, by which the knowledge of awareness is well attained, knowing which is to become Shiva himself, what has not been told to any by me today from me that wisdom here, handed down by the lineage of gurus and beyond the ken of logicians. This is for the liberation from the bondage of the birth death cycle. Its supreme vision shines at all places. He who is the one pervading all things, he who has manifested as all, he who has faces in all directions, who is beyond thought, who remains himself as all the verities and transcends them too, is the self. See our Atma. Lord Shiva is talking about our Atma. Our Atma is omnipresent, all pervasive, present everywhere. Our Atma is having infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite Shakti. He transcends all verities. He is beyond the reach of speech, mind, and name. I am that Shiva self. Thus you should meditate with perfectly undifferentiated mind on Shiva. Here Shiva and Atma same because in Advaita God and the self are one, not different. That's what Advaita Vedanta declares. Firmly established as the eternal entity, imperishable and undifferentiated, the all pervasive, partless knowledge that cannot be fathomed by the mind, it shines with nothing prior to compare. Without stain, indestructible, the totally serene, the knowledge transcends all objects beyond the pale of thought, conception, and doubt. That supreme I am, no doubt about this. The supreme divinity Shiva indeed am I, of the nature of all the mantras and transcends all the mantras, devoid of dissolution and creation. What is visible, what is invisible, the moving and the stationary, all these are pervaded me. All are pervaded by me. I am the Lord of this universe. All shine because of me. Filled with a variety of forms, one different from the other, filled with a galaxy of worlds, all this universe from Shiva down to the earth are all established in me. Whatever is seen in this world, whatever is heard in this world, whatever shines conceptualized as inside and outside, all these are pervaded by me and all pervading one realize this. Though considering himself the self, he desired to attain that Shiva, the Supreme Self, as one apart. Whoever contemplates com- contemplates on Shiva, thus in delusion, will not attain Shivahood by such contemplation. Know this. This means we should not have the conception that myself and Shiva are different. No, you are the self, you are Shiva. Know this truth and be the self, be Shiva, having no difference. Otherwise, you will be in ignorance, in delusion. So contemplate yourself as Shiva. Oh my God. Shiva is other than I. I am other than Shiva. Uproot this attitude of differentiation. I indeed am Shiva. This conviction that is non dual ever practice. Dear friends, try to understand when you visualize, imagine, and contemplate that you and Shiva are different, that means you are under a delusion, you are under complete ignorance. Remove this ignorance. How this ignorance is to be removed? Considering yourself and Shiva as one. Please. Full of this non dual conviction, he who everywhere abides ever in the self shall see in all things, in all bodies, only that Shiva self of this. There is no doubt. This means contemplate on the conviction that your Atama and Lord Shiva are not different but the same power. Whoever has this conviction always of the one self shall rid himself of delusion and dual perception. That yogi will attain to omniscience. So it is said in the Vedas. This you should know. When this conviction is firm in your heart that you are Lord Shiva, then you will acquire the same power as Lord Shiva. You will acquire all the attributes of Lord Shiva, but there should not be any doubt. There should not be any doubt in the subtle form at all. Further, he who is praised in all scriptures as the unborn, the Ishvara, that formless and attributeless self, he indeed I am, there is no doubt about this. That means you are the Lord, you are Ishvara. Have this conviction in your heart. Only he who does not know his true nature is the jiva that is subject to the dharmas, characteristics of birth, death, and so on. He who knows his true self is one who is eternal. He is the pure, he is Shiva without doubt. Know this. Those who consider Shiva different from the self, they will carry on undergoing the cycle of birth and death. And those who are convinced that Lord Shiva and the self in our spiritual heart is same, then you are pure like Shiva, and you are in the stage of self-realization, Atam Sakshatkara. Hence, what man of discrimination should inquire carefully and directly realize is the self, that itself shines twofold as the transcendental and the inferior divisions, the gross and the subtle. The supreme nirvana is the higher. The inferior is manifest as the creation. Mantras are spoken of as its gross form. What abides in changeless awareness is the subtle. Sammukha, without realizing it. Atma, what avails explanations thereof in endless ways? Tell me, all these are only a wonderful display of words, the cause for the delusion of the mind. All the dharmas, qualities abide in the self, whichever of them the individual self jiva imagined, whereby he concentrates his thoughts again and again on it, he will attain the object. There is no doubt of this. See, we should clear our doubt about Jiva, Jivatma and Atma. When this Atma is confined in this body, living in the body, we call it as Jivatma, individual soul. And the Atma is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Thus has been told by me as the knowledge of the self, what has been gathered suc- succinctly as a condensed form, all by any means is of the nature of the self. Realizing this, may you ever be strengthened in the thoughts of the self. The deities, the Vedas, the fire sacrifices, the various gifts to priests in the course of their performance. None of this exists there in the nature of the self. Be tuned to the blemishless, omnifaceted, steadfast knowledge of the self. To give to the jiva drowning in the vast ocean of the birth-death cycle and seeking a refuge. What affords refuge is only that knowledge of the self, not anything else. Know this. That means if you want to get rid of the cycle of birth and death, then realize yourself. Undergo the process of Atama Sakshatkar. How it is? It is just have the conviction that Brahma and Atma is same, no difference. That's what Advaita Vedanta declares. He who becomes of the nature of the Supreme and realizes it as it really is, shall, though experiencing all changing states, attain liberation without effort. Be aware of this. There is no greater blessing anywhere apart from the gaining of the self. Meditate ever on the self. He who is the self, he indeed is the one all pervading supreme self. Be aware of this. See, See, misunderstanding and misconceptions become great hurdles in the path of sadhana. So we must remove all types of misconceptions and misunderstandings. See, when we are doing self inquiry sadhana, make sure do not take who am I as a mantra. Just have the feeling, have the query, who am I? And then have and be aware of the self awareness. That is, I am Atma. So, undergo this self attention and self awareness, contemplating that I am Atma and I am Atma, I am Atma. This, this is self inquiry. People do self inquiry for years together, but without understanding the basic nature of self inquiry. Self inquiry is nothing but awareness and self attention, contemplating on the idea that I am the self, and further, myself and Brahm are not different. You will enjoy, you will have bliss, you have eternal peace. Thoughts will cease to arise from your self. See, mind is non existent. What is mind? Mind is nothing but the continuity of thoughts arising from our self. When the thoughts are having outward direction, we are in the world away from the self. Change the direction of this mind towards spiritual heart. That means your mind becomes pure, it becomes Atma. Because mind is nothing but the part of Atma. Mind is non-existent. That's what people misunderstand. People they have written books how to control mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind, superconscious mind. Are Baba, why you are talking and giving unnecessary so much importance to mind? Mind is nothing but the thoughts coming out from Atma. Yes, these simple things we have to understand and controlling. How can you? You know what is Atma? Atma is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and you want to control Atma by what? By mind. Mind is non-existent. Mind is not living. It is just reflection of our Atma. Mind, how you can control? By controlling mind, we are controlling Atma. And Atma is having infinite power. How it can be controlled by mind which is having finite and not at all existing? So these are the misconceptions we have to remove our mind. Then only self-inquiry becomes just easy. People, they have written books, articles. Arey Baba, this is very simple. Mind is non-existent. Mind is part of Atma. Mind is not to be controlled, but you have to change the direction of outgoing mind towards the spiritual heart where reside our Atma. These are the simple things. Do not just carry on the burden of ignorance, considering mind as something very powerful. Mind is nothing but just non-existent entity. There is no greater blessing anywhere apart from the gaining of the self. Meditate ever on the self. He who is the self, he indeed is the one all pervasive supreme self. Be aware of this. So, know this fact. It is not the prana, vital air, nor the apana, the air that travels down, even nor the instrument superior even to these, the sense, mind, and such. Reach ever for the thought of the self, that is the omniscient and the perfect. It is neither inside nor outside, nor afar, nor nearby, nor does it fit in any place. That Supreme is formless, all pervasive, and effulgent. Direct your thoughts ever to it. That's what I was telling. Direct your mind to go to interior, that is to the spiritual heart where resides our Atma, where reside Lord Ishvara. It is across, above and below, inside and outside, which are divisions ever established firmly everywhere. The void, the self-luminous self, ever meditate on that more and more. Not a void, not a non-void, it is also the non-void and the void pervasive everywhere, but without predilections ever think of the self. Afflictionless and without any sport for itself, bereft of caste, name and form, that taintless, attributeless self you should unceasingly meditate upon with no refuse, with nothing to support it beyond the range of comprehension, without parallel, faultless by nature, the eternal, the self that is so. Meditate upon it joyfully forever, embracing this passion and thus desisting from all karmic activity, shying away from the society. One should thereafter ever meditate upon the self within oneself, in oneself, by oneself. Be aware of this country and lineage, the traditional caste and style of life, facing various thoughts arising in the wake of these, the wise man should meditate daily upon his real nature. What is our real nature? Atma. That is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, and further Brahma and Atma are not different but same. This is the mantra, this is the deity, this is indeed what is called meditation. This indeed is tapas, casting afar all such thoughts. Concentrate on the nature of your own self. What is your own self? Our self is bliss, our self is eternal peace. Nature of our self is eternal peace, eternal bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss. The self is without thought. Make it impossible for the thought oriented mind to think at all. Make the mind that thinks to get settled on the self. Let not the mind think of anything else. That's what I told you. Change the direction of your mind to go inwardly to the spiritual heart, where resides the soul, where reside the Atama and Brahma together. The self is not something that can be thought of, nor is it something that cannot be thought of. It is not thought itself, it is indeed itself thought. It is indeed itself thought means because thoughts arise from Atma only. So thought is not different from self. So, what does not lean towards any of the above? The Supreme, that is the Self, ever meditate upon it. Meditate ever on that which is beyond the reach of the mind, allowing no refuse for the mind, the joy that is attained in abundance in that self. That is beyond all verities and complete, without any difference and beyond the reach of thinking, without any precedent, without anything similar, that which is the utmost frontier and extolled as the supreme bliss be emerged, discarding all desire for objects, destroying the modes of the mind, the non dual state of being the one. When the mind ceases to be, is the one called supreme bliss. All directions, all places, all times are conductive for the yoga of the self, so say the scriptures. Differences of caste and orders of life and such cannot cause any difference in the least to the nature of knowledge. The color of milk is one, the color of the cow is many, so is the nature of knowledge. Observe the wise ones, beings of various marks and attributes are like the cows, their realization is the same. This is an example we should know. Reality. What is reality? Brahma intimately pervades all. It shines with faces in all directions, established in it without a pause. Think not of differences such as regions and directions. In this world itself, there is no mark, lifestyle, or tradition for the one who becomes of the nature of the self. He has nothing to gain by any action of his. No action need be performed, nor any injunctions prescribing actions apply to him. No days moving or standing or sleeping, waking or taking food or water. In the face of the wind, the cold and the sun. Unaffected will he be in any case at any time. Fear, indigence, sickness, burning, burning fever, indigestion, even when all these effects one established in the self peaceful and shining full, he is never at his wits and on any count he will savor the satisfaction of the self. Whether going forward or returning, I am not the one that moves. When inquired into, there is no going or coming. In the ever changing Dharma of Prakriti, the cause of illusion creation, I never was immersed, nor I am now. All activities prescribed are the work of Prakriti, the illusion Prakriti, so spoken of is the source of all action. I am the immaculate, I am the actionless, thus indeed will reflect the wise man, the knower of truth. For him there is no bondage of Prakriti, the delusion. He has earned the name of the liberated one. He shall never be touched by the defects spoken of as the action of Prakriti. The manner in which a lamp shines, destroying darkness with its light in like manner by destroying the enveloping darkness arising from inexplicable ignorance, the self of the nature of the pure light of knowledge shines. Even as the lamp with the fuel of ghee spent attains peace, the yogi continuously contemplating on the truth of the self will be at peace in the self. Nothing greater is there to be attained than the self. This is the truth. When the pot is carried, the space within the pot, though conceived of as carried, is it not the pot only that is carried? The self too, like space, remains motionless because our self is present everywhere in the Brahmand, in the universe. So when we say I am carrying myself, no, it is every self is everywhere. When the pot breaks, the space in the pot merges one with the great space. When the inner body passes away, the self seemingly in the body becomes immediately one with the supreme self. See, after death, we say our Atma mixes with supreme self. And then what is this Atam Sakshatkara? When when we are living, our body is there. Our Atma is embodied in the this body. Then, if we are merging with Lord Shiva, Brahma, that is what self realization and Atam Sakshatkara. Thus, the Lord who is omniscient spoke with authority then. One who is liberated, severed from all bondage, becomes all pervasive, endless, with absolute awareness. Discarding totally all the agamas, attaining the pure samadhi of Atma Yoga, realizing by due inquiry there is nothing else greater than this. Destroy all wrong ideas in the mind of differences. Meditating continuously on the great knowledge, thus that yogi who attains ever the bodiless nature, that pure jnani whose dharma is the dharma of that bodiless nature alone, is the liberated one, shining inside and out, reaching across to every place. Omniscience and bliss and mature wisdom, remaining independent, limitless strength, attaining all these, he shines ever the self without afflictions, with an immaculate body, he as the science merges in Shiva. Japa of the name, worship, bathing in holy waters, ritual sacrifices, none of these or others are needed. The fruits of dharma and adharma, water oblations to forefathers, none of these are for him. No injunction for observance, no fast, nothing required by way of getting into or out of any action, no vows of celibacy for him, no this. Now, having any recourse to falling into the fire or water, or of falling from the mountain top, enjoy the feast of the knowledge of Shiva, eternal and pure, rid of the rules applying to all creation, move about as you please. I tell you, this is the truth, the truth, the truth thrice ever. There is nothing greater than this, nothing greater is there to be known, nothing at all, nowhere ever. Rid of any blemish, rid of ignorance with pure intellect being the pure self, by the pure conviction that all that is seen is pure. Meditate on the immaculate nature, he shall attain awareness. So sit in meditation, visualize that my mind is, or you say, I am going deeper, 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 and deeper towards the spiritual heart and entering the spiritual heart and now merging with the self. Contemplation like this for some time your mind will subside, it will be completely weakened. Here, I am going. So you have to understand. Here, this I is your ego. Ego is nothing but the basic thought. What is that basic thought? I am the body. So I am the body thought is known as ego. So ego is the modification of mind. Remember this. Mind and ego are not different. The mind has many modifications. So you have to understand. When we say I am going deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper inwardly to the spiritual heart where resides the self and merging with it. It means ego is surrendering to the self. This is what surrender, not surrendering to some physical body. This is the big ignorance, misconception of the word surrender. Surrender to who is surrendering to whom? See, people think that I surrender to my guru and that's all. I will get liberation, I get Atama Sakshatkara, I will be self-realizing. Arey, dear, how is it possible? This surrender is not surrendering to somebody externally. Your ego, your mind, your vasanas together, they are surrendering to the Atma. That is Brahma. This is surrender. This is what self-inquiry and surrender is same. That is, I'm really, surprised how people completely misconceive, misunderstand, and write articles or why simple thing. Ego is surrendering to Atma. This is what when your ego and your mind is surrendering to Atma means what? That means your self attention, your self awareness. You are attending to yourself. So, self inquiry and self surrender. What is the difference? I read so many articles. What a funny thing. Why you are talking all this? Are Baba, what is self inquiry? Have self attention and self awareness continuously. That means I am Atma. This is self inquiry. Then what is surrender? Your ego is surrendering to Atma. After the ego and mind are surrendered, what is left? Atma. So here is the difference between self inquiry and surrender. This is what, because it is the misconception, misunderstanding, ignorance. People think, no, no, surrendering to some physical guru will give you liberation, guru will give you a Shakti path, and guru, what guru can guide you? You have to do efforts for yourself. Even God cannot help you in your Atam Sakshatkara. You have to do meditation. You have to do self surrender. You have to do self inquiry. So, my dear sadhakas, devotees of all, see, we should not have distinctions. That guru, this Mahatma. You where, wherever you get knowledge, that knowledge should be true knowledge, and knowledge is absolute. True, what is truth? Truth is only one. What is knowledge? Knowledge is one. Knowledge of Atma and Paramatma is called knowledge, not your chemistry, mathematics, physics, and biology. That is secular knowledge. This knowledge will die with your body, but your spiritual knowledge will carry on in your next birth if you are not liberated. So, thank you, my dear friends, for watching and listening this video. Please, please subscribe my channel so that it reaches to more and more people. Thank you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.